Welcome to Politics Done Right on KPFT. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Give me a call at 713-526-5738. That is 713-526-KPFT. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. It's going to be an interesting day because I promised. Let me tell you what happened, first of all. This is kind of amusing. Today, the topic is being liberal in Texas. So we're in the green room and Shannon is out there and Shannon is taking care of making sure she has her traffic reports together and making sure all these things are together so that when she gets on air, everything will be running just smoothly. So she said, "Oh, Egberto, what is going to be the topic today?" That's my imitation of her, of course. You like that imitation?
Oh, yes. It's classic.
Okay, great. So then I said, then she says, are you going to be handling same-sex marriage? I'm like, that is being covered a whole lot all over the place right now. So, no, I decided to go a little bit in depth on something. And by the way, guys, I want you to call in. And also, I want to hear from women. We've been dominated by men as callers. So women that are listening, stake your position. Your country needs you. But anyway, Shannon said, "Egberto, what are you talking about?" I said, "Okay, Shannon, no, I'm not talking about marriage equality or marriage, same-sex marriage. I'm not talking about Obamacare. What are you talking about?" I said, "Being liberal in Texas." And I said, "What do you have to, what is being liberal in Texas, Shannon?" And I'm not going to answer. I'm going to let Shannon tell me what she told me.
Well, my policy before was to hide for a long time. But, I'm out of hiding because I am in Pacifica. So, yeah.
But I told you I was going to make fun of you on radio because you are exactly what we're going to talk about. Liberals, there are more of you. Stop hiding. But Shannon told me, she made sure and she got strict with me, though. She said, "I am not hiding. I'm at Pacifica." Okay. You're at Pacifica. So for that, you're okay.
Thank you.
Folks, don't forget, this is a call-in show, 713-526-5738. Again, this is a call-in show, 713-526-5738. I want to hear from all of you, whether you're liberal, conservative, anything in between, or otherwise. Give me a call, 713-526-5738. We're talking about being liberal in Texas. Now, something else I want to tell you guys. Times are actually looking up for progressive. We have a conservative court that is allowing the correct interpretation of progressive or relatively progressive legislation. So the thing that you must do now is make sure to keep the ball rolling. Not gloating, because you don't have to gloat when you're right. You're simply right. Okay? So anyhow, being liberal in Texas is actually not bad at all. I like to look at it as a state that presents one with much opportunity to do good, with much opportunity to effect positive change. I was on the Kingwood Area Democrats page and saw a post of an article from the Forward Progressive site titled "Being a Liberal in a Red State." I could not help but think about how it applied to Texas, a supposedly red state. As our Kingwood Area Democrats would attest, there's nothing like doing good work and seeing results one kernel at a time. So guess what time it is? My dear listeners, the name of today is called Again, the post, being liberal in Texas, being a liberal in Texas. And when I wrote this up, I said, you know what, I really want to get the gist of this. So it starts this way. The Kingwood Area Democrats had secured a prime spot at the early voting location. There were balloons, coffee, donuts, and trinkets for kids. There was even some music. Throughout the day, many people stopped by to get some coffee. In this seemingly dark red suburban town, many people who came up were elated that not only Democrats but liberals would stake their position with pride. A man in a Tea Party decorated truck policed the area, ensuring that everyone at the gathering could see his displeasure. In this area, like in many parts of Texas, Tea Party sympathizers are more vocal than their numbers suggest they should. They have more influence than their numbers suggest. And doctors' offices, car repair shops, restaurants, and everywhere else with a television, they generally effectively force all to consume what? What do we know they consume? Fox News. This is but a soft continuation of the Powell Manifesto, where an ideology subliminally infiltrates every aspect of our society in order to indoctrinate you. Texas is a laboratory where the concept has been implemented successfully. Texas is not a deep red conservative state. Texas is a conforming state. It conforms to those with a bigger megaphone. Texas is a non-voting state. Texas is a state where rights are taken away, slowing in order for a minority to maintain power. Texas is a state that continues to cut education because it realizes that uneducated masses are easily what? Controlled. That's it. How then does a liberal survive in Texas? For too long, the answer has been keep your liberalism to yourself or within your close circle. Does that ring a bell, Shannon?
Yes.
Does that ring a bell, Shannon?
Must admit it does.
Okay. The problem with that are twofold. First, that stance effectively changes the body politic. Politicians really believe they are serving a majority if a portion of the electorate remains silent. Secondly, it changes the aggregate psyche of the population. If no one is expounding liberal, progressive, enlightening new ideas, the old status quo ideas become the only ideas. Everyone acquiesces to it. It becomes what? The norm. What then must a liberal do in Texas? One must develop a thick skin. One must realize that those promoting an alternative ideology, one they generally know little about as they parrot tenets, are just like whom? Like you. Very few realize how much alike most people are. Differences must be magnified to ensure a dialogue of commonality does not occur. That's what the plutocracy must have. They must have you fighting each other's brothers and sisters. You've got to fight each other, because if you're not fighting each other, you actually see where the problem lies. That's what it's all about. Here is a true story that illustrates much. While many of the Kingwood Area Democrats were having friendly conversations in the booth, a very irate female doctor barged into the area. She was pointing her fingers with disdain. She called us liberals, among other things, as if liberal was a dirty word. She then told us that Obamacare would destroy the country. But let me digress. Let me digress for 1 minute. All the rights attained in this country came from the doings of both Democratic and Republican liberals. Liberals fought to end slavery. Liberals fought to ensure women would get the right to vote. Liberals ensured humane working conditions. In effect, the rights that Americans were fought for by those who refuse the status quo, liberals. It is for that reason that the powers that be needed to redefine the word liberal into a negative. The woman, the doctor that entered our booth, is a smart woman. After all, she's a doctor. It does not show, or rather, it does show how ideology can hinder pragmatism and logical thinking. Drew Weston explains this concept in his book, and I quote his book all the time, The Political Brain, where he talks about reaching people not through statistics, but through their hearts. Many of our Kingwood Area Democrats were taken aback. A few were even incensed and simply walked away. As the doctor attempted to leave, I begged her to stay. Come on, she should stay. We want to talk. Why? I wanted to remove the caricature she had of the Kingwood Area Democrats and of liberals in particular. We could have gotten into a shouting match, or we could find some way to dialogue. We chose the latter. CAD, the Kingwood Area Democrats, it's not what we do. We chose the latter. The Obamacare debate was actually quite easy. Instead of telling the doctor why Obamacare was better than the status quo, I asked her what would be her solution. She responded with standard taglines and about interstate insurance purchasing, portability, and choice, and the standard line you hear from folks who continuously object to this new law. As a doctor, she actually knew all the things that were needed. She did know it. She's a doctor. She's smart. Ideologically, not so much, but for her profession, she was a very wise woman. Okay, when I calmly asked her, point by point, that if Obamacare provided what she stated, if she would then agree that it was not as bad as she thought, she said she would look into it. That is her way of saying, I guess I better. Because after all, she's not going to tell me, hey, if it really does that, then it's right. She's not going to say that. But you know what? That's okay. In what we do as activists, as liberals or whatever, isn't for somebody to pat us on the back and say, hey, guess what? You were right. I have no interest in somebody saying, I'm right. You're right. That's not the point. The point is to change society altogether. So what if they tell you you're right? So what if they don't tell you you're right? Does it really matter? I don't think so. Anyhow, I then gave her my personal story of having a wife with lupus, a pre-existing condition. In as much as I have been an entrepreneur that has always had insurance and received nothing from the government, my wife's condition could eventually bankrupt us, sans Obamacare. In other words, Obamacare did in fact prevent many people, likely all of us that were self-insured, that had to buy our own insurance, not dependent on corporate America, because you own your own company, you own your own business, you are responsible for yourself. It puts a great level of security on you. I asked her what would she suggest for my family. She thought about it, but her silence said it all. She soon after said, you people are nice people. I never expected this when I came in to talk to you. She was referring to our Kingwood Area Democrats because everybody was nice. They all spoke to her. They all tried to reason with her. They never called her out, called her names or anything. She couldn't believe that the caricature that was made of liberals, these were the people she was having a conversation with. You see, we've got to break the caricature. She then left with a completely different attitude. We were no longer the caricature of liberals or Democrats she expected based on her Fox News programming. Yes, the effectuated Powell memo is Fox News as well. There is even a possibility that the word liberal would not immediately shut down her channels of comprehension. One must not be naive to believe that encounters like this are enough to change these people's minds. What is important is that these types of dialogues occur and are replicated over and over and over again. When entering an establishment, kindly ask them to change the channel from Fox News to something else. You know, better news channel. And if you don't want a news channel, the Discovery Channel, an educational channel, something. If it upsets some, attempt to have a civil dialogue with them. You know, while one of the great things about people is when they come blasting and shouting at you, if you are the one who remains calm and just take it easy, you'd be surprised what percentages of the times that makes the difference. And suddenly, they chill. Talk to people. Don't talk down to them. Do not attempt to corner them. We all have the ability to fail or to fall from some level of indoctrination. This is evident even on the left, but that is for another post. We'll talk about indoctrination on the left another day. Being liberal in Texas is not difficult if viewed in a positive frame of mind. Being liberal in Texas simply means there is a lot of opportunity to engage and change people to make a better Texas, and with that, a better America. Folks, the number is 713-526-5738. Give me a call. Are you a liberal in Texas? How do you feel being a liberal in Texas? Are you a hiding liberal in Texas like Shannon was? Are you kind of feel the same way you think most liberals feel, but because you're here in Texas, you think you have to play a role? Give me a call, 713-526-5738. All lines are open right now, so you can call in now and
go to break too.
On air right away. So we're going to go to break, and then we'll come back. I hope I have some calls by then. 713-526-5738.
Why, thank you, Egberto. All right, in the forecast for today, there is with mixture of clouds and sunshine in the forecast, high of 92, partly cloudy skies tonight, low around 75 degrees. Tomorrow, expect a mixture of clouds and sunshine, high of 94 degrees. It is currently 93 degrees, but it feels like 104 out there with Houston humidity and scattered clouds. And taking a look at our traffic situation at the moment on 290 Northwest Freeway inbound. An accident was just cleared from the center lane and right lane, but there's heavy traffic backed up to Senate. And on I-10 Katy Freeway inbound at West Sam Houston Tollway, an accident involving two vehicles is affecting a center lane, left lane, and shoulder, backing up traffic to Anton. And on the North Freeway, eastbound at Durham, a collision between two vehicles was just cleared from the right lane and shoulder, traffic backed up to Irvington. I'll keep an eye on that traffic. And back to you, Egberto.
Muchísimas gracias, folks. The lines are open, 713-526-5738. And as I mentioned before, guys, give me a call. Ladies, give me a call. We have no calls at this time. 713-526-5738. Are you a liberal hiding in Texas? Well, if you call, there's nobody that's going to know who you are.
They're hiding. That's what's going on.
Do you really think they're hiding off of a subject like liberals in Texas?
Do you see? It's just too controversial. Nobody's calling at the moment. They're afraid to speak.
I don't think they're afraid to speak. I just think they want to have that first one call and say, okay, I'm a liberal in Texas, and this is what I'm going to tell you. This is how things really are. But anyhow, folks,
we'll find out from the public, huh?
We'll find out for the public whether they want to call in or call out or do whatever they are. But since nobody's calling on the liberal issue, maybe you were right, and maybe they wanted to talk about the same-sex marriage issue.
You had some amazing posts this week on all these great subjects. It was so enjoyable me reading through those.
Well, I mean, last week was like a week that you really wanted to write.
Oh, yes. When I woke up Friday, I was elated. I couldn't believe they had such great comments. And, great decision. But there are phone lines, callers, so I'm going to grab those lines.
All right. Well, folks, it's amazing how things work. Now, the lines are just lighting up now. But anyway, while Shannon takes care of business and we start to get you guys on air, let me just tell you that last week was a dream for progressives. And I'm calling it progressives. But I'll tell you what, folks, I want us to eventually stop calling this stuff progressives. I want us to start calling this liberals. So let's go with line number one. Line number one, you're hot. Well, not yet. I think she hasn't punched you in yet. There you go. Come on in, line number one. Talk to me. Yes, you're on.
Yes, this is Libney, and I find it easy to be a liberal in Texas because we have KPFT.
I love to hear that.
I want to respond to your caller last week who made a comment about once a racist, always a racist.
Okay.
I disagree with that because years ago when I was a young adult, and I'm not ashamed to admit I voted for Pat Buchanan.
Okay, you're forgiven.
Thank you. But as I grew older and started questioning my values, my beliefs, I found KPFT, and they were very instrumental in forming my ideology today.
Great. I'm glad to hear that because you know what? The reality is that is usually the case. And I think it was one of my friends, somebody that I knew that actually made that statement. And, people have their different ways of thinking. And I respect everybody's way of thinking. Now, I think people can change. And the reason I say, well, actually, let me not say I think people can change. I know people can change because I changed. There was a time, I'm originally from Central America. We're a very homophobic part of the world, okay? And I am one of the largest proponents of gay issues, and not only that, I am actually an activist that supports gay issues. That was a 180-degree transition that I made. Okay.
Right.
And the reason I made that transition was I was educated, and after being educated, I changed my heart. Because it's not enough to change your head. It's easy to change what's inside of your head. What's hard is changing how you actually behave. And that is what I was able to do over time. And in the process, I can genuinely say now that my past sins, my past evils of being a homophobe has changed. I think other people's for other reasons can change as well. Am I looking for somebody to give me a pat on the back for having changed? Hell no, because I should have changed. There should have been no point there. So that's what I have to say. Anything else you want to say before I go, my friend?
No, that most people are just afraid of change and afraid that the changing their viewpoints, they don't want to feel like the way they were taught was wrong, or their parents, the way they upraised them was wrong. But I think over time people will learn to be tolerant and accepting everyone.
Right. Well, anyhow, great. Let me go. Thank you very much for calling, sir. Let me go to Matt. Come on in, Matt.
Hello, how are you?
I am fine. Talk to me, my dear friend.
Okay, I know Libney, and you know what? He's like too conservative for me.
Who is too conservative for you?
Libney, the previous caller, he's a friend of mine.
Oh.
Anyway, no, I'm not a closet liberal. Let me tell you something. In fact, I'm so liberal that, I would probably warm up closer to communism.
Uh-huh. Well, let me tell you something, my friend. The reality is, a lot of people don't understand all those terminologies. They don't understand what socialist is. They don't understand what liberal. What communist, all that kind of stuff. So I get what you're saying. Here's the reality. Okay. You can be whatever you want to be as long as you know how it affects other people and you make sure not to infringe on them. That's what when we talk about being liberal and being enlightened, that's the kind of stuff that I think of. I think I'm liberal enough to allow somebody to be more conservative than I am.
Yeah, like when I talk to friends that are Republicans and I tell them, look, man, let's have a talk about whatever issue it may be. I said, look, if you can convince me that your view is good for you and me and everybody else, I'm willing to switch. But I want to hear it, but they can't,
Of course. Look, let me tell you. I think one of the bastions of liberalism is to be able to accept a concept and change. Because one of the tenets of liberalism is not only being enlightened, but also being able to change as conditions change. And one of the definitions, and it's within the word itself, conservative, it really means to maintain, right? To maintain the status quo. Unfortunately, maintaining the status quo for some is fine. And you can understand why some would want to maintain the status quo. There's, if life has always been good for them, if the way things are currently working is great for them, then it's fine. The problem is that by definition, if you accept that conservative value of keeping things the way they are because it suits you without having empathy towards others, that presents a problem. And then that says that by nature, the ideology, in as much as I wouldn't say, oh, the ideology is bad or anything like that, the ideology does have a conflict with what is necessary for the well-being of not some, but the well-being for all. Don't you agree?
Yes. I mean, I tell people, your system's working fine. Wait until it falls apart. I mean, I keep my pulse on the world economy. And if you look around the world as other governments and other people are enlightened, like, for example, in Greece right now,
right?
They've been pushed to the wall, and they're just saying, you know what, no more of this.
It is funny that you brought up Greece because, and Bruce, I'm coming to you next. It is funny that you brought up Greece because the topic of today's subject was actually Greece. That's what I was about to talk to. In fact, I was on a coffee party call last night, and we started discussing Greece. And the only reason I didn't talk about Greece today is that I didn't have enough time to research the genesis of Greece's problem. And I don't want to come on air not knowing the subject very well. So I decided, I better go with the subject that I knew very well, and I did this subject today. However, there's one thing that everybody should know about Greece, and that is watch how a banking system, we all saw the banking system kill the American middle class in 2008 and beyond. Well, actually, for the longest time. Watch how...
Part of this is a result of that.
Right,
it's
exactly.
a residual of that.
Right.
Over there in Greece.
But what I want to tell people is now watch how our banking system, and I'm talking world banking system, is actually now on the verge of destroying a nation. That's the power of what we're talking about now. But I got to let you go, Matt, because the phones are starting to come up. And folks, don't forget that 713-526-5738.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. You have a wonderful day. Let's go to Bruce. Okay, Bruce, you are on.
Hi, thanks for taking my call.
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to say, I think it's definitely more fun to be a liberal in Texas because you've got the whole liberal angst element,
right?
That you wouldn't have living someplace where everybody was a liberal.
Right.
You got the whole romantic us against them thing going.
But you know what? I tell you one thing, though, Bruce. All of that is nice and good and fun, right? But from where I'm coming from, right, for me, the liberal values that we need out here are things that are actually going to be saving people's lives. So while you're correct that, we kind of like the angst and we kind of like the adventure of having these liberal conservative fights, or I shouldn't say fight, but conversations, what I find, for me right now, it is a little bit more serious than that because I'm watching a liberal conservative fight on Obamacare, which is causing the death of thousands of our fellow Texans. I am watching our women in the valleys and other places, potentially, if the Supreme Court rules wrong, in a wrong fashion, their female care would be at risk. I'm looking at, it is fine to have these conversations, but when it's going to have a material effect on our citizens, it is no longer a joke. It is no longer funny. So I agree with you. Go ahead.
The reason I thought about that was, see, my wife is really a hardcore liberal compared to me,
Yeah.
And she gets so mad. She listens to the news. She says, we need to move out of Texas.
Oh, no.
And I thought about, well, in a way it's more fun being liberal here than it would be someplace like Seattle or someplace like that. Oh, by the way, to answer the question you asked about the origin of Greece's financial problems.
Yes.
What they will tell you it is, I don't know if it can actually all be blamed on that or not, was that during World War II, the Nazis forced them to loan a whole bunch of money to them.
Well,
it was like loan us your whole national treasury.
Right.
And they did, and of course they never got it back. And that's an element that's not talked to in this whole thing. See, Greece thinks Germany owes them. Right.
Let me just say that I've read some of that, but I don't have all of that corroborated yet. But I want to say one thing. That is, do remember this. whenever a bank makes a loan, it's a transaction, and the reason there's interest is that transaction has risk. Okay, so therefore, the risk that these banks took with Greece was a bad risk, evidently. Well, they should take their losses, period, and not force an entire country to have to pay for the sins of the few that have created this problem. They're going to talk to you about taxes, and they're going to talk to you about people who want to pay their taxes, and you're going to hear a plethora of reasons why.
Well, they would agree with you. They would wholeheartedly agree with you.
Yes.
And they would say, we lost our national treasure because the banks are bad today.
Right.
Imagine the banks under the Nazis where they came in and said, you'll loan us your national treasury or we'll...
I don't want to excuse anybody's bad behavior. Like I said, I don't know. But that said, at the same time, when you charge interest for a loan, you're taking a risk. And as we've allowed a lot of American companies to go bankrupt, but we are not allowing students who have loans to go bankrupt. It seems like the people that always pay the price are the middle class. My phones are filling up.
I was going to say, I think that is part of this. It's not discussed.
Right.
I don't think Greece ever plans to pay Germany back.
Right.
They feel like Germany owes them that money.
I hear you. We'll talk about that likely the next week when I do some studying. Okay, my friend?
Okay.
Thank you very much, Bruce. And let's go to Gerald.
Okay, bye.
Gerald, you're hot. Come on in, my friend.
Neither liberal nor conservative. I came to Houston in '77, and their construction and the roads haven't basically improved here. Maybe back then the people were more Caucasian and more conservative, and they were building the roads improperly. And now we have a mayor who said she's going to send specialists to other parts of the country to learn how to build roads. There's no secret how to build roads. You got to have a good base, good cement, and the cement has to be not watered down and of good quality and cured. No secret at all. But her administration and every other one I've seen here, I watch these roads and sidewalks, and this is why we don't have any money for schools or other things, well, along with other reasons. But they keep doing these same things over and over.
Well,
improperly, and they don't. Our mayor doesn't have a clue, and evidently the city engineers. I watch them when they come out and look at the things when they're doing, but they're not prepared right. Sidewalks have 7 inches of concrete. So therefore, we don't have money for things that's necessary.
Well, I mean, there are a lot of reasons. Some of that is above my pay grade to know, how the city operates and all that kind of stuff. I can tell you one thing where it comes to spending of money. I can tell you that over the years we have been much too lenient on how we handle repairs of our roads, and that is because, from a conservative perspective, nobody wants to pay what's necessary to really upkeep what we have. When I've been living in Houston since 1984, and I can tell you that the roads have deteriorated since, and I think it has a lot more to do with the lack of finances to do it than
it doesn't have to do with finances. The money it takes for them to do the road improperly, the same road could have been done properly. It has to do with lack of supervision instead.
I'm not, you could be right to some extent on that, but I can tell you from a factual basis, factually, and this is not really up for discussion specifically. We in this country have denied monies to keep our infrastructure up to date. That's a statement of fact. And
I watched the roads, and they have the money.
No, sir. You may be. I'm not discussing with you whether you're right on localized issues, etc. You're probably absolutely right on that. But I'm telling you, as a country, our infrastructure have been left in disrepair.
Well,
and
I think that's true too.
Yeah, but anyway, I got another call, my friend.
Go ahead. This wasn't even what you were talking about.
No, that's all right. But this is a community station, and you needed to get your voice out, and please keep listening, and we want to hear your voice. Okay, my friend?
Have a good day.
You have a wonderful day. Now let's go to Joe. That's line number 3. Joe, talk to me.
Hey. Hey, man, I'm just driving along, and I listen to KPFT all the time, and call once in a while when something strikes my fancy. And I'm catching all the the labels that are getting tossed around, conservative or liberal, or and I'm kind of getting the conservative is less educated and kind of bad, and liberal is more educated and enlightened.
No, I hope that's not what you're getting. Let me tell you what I want you to get. Let me tell you.
Okay, go ahead.
Or unless you have more to say, I'd let you finish.
I do have more to say, and it was something that you alluded to a minute ago, and it was about the status quo. You said that people who want to maintain the status quo got it good,
Right.
And that people who are liberal and want to change don't have it so good. And I think, I'm born and raised here. I work really hard, and I would say that I've got it pretty good. I work really hard for what I've got.
Mm-hmm.
And frankly, I see a lot of people who don't have it so good, and they're trying to claw their way up by taking from me.
Uh-huh.
Right? By increasing my taxes, or even just making me pay high taxes.
Mm-hmm.
Pay for programs. Like I was just in Brownsville, and the people of Brownsville have to pay a ton of money to the community college system for quote unquote underprivileged people so they can go to school for free. But and I'm all for it. I clawed my way up from the very, very bottom.
And I don't. Right? Let me tell you,
I
Joe.
understand, but I don't think it's right for people to take from me and my family.
Joe. Let me.
They have so little.
I get your gist, Joe, and I want you to listen to me clearly here, as clear as you can.
Okay.
I have no problem with what you've said with respect to people taking from you to help those people that need help. I wish you would read more of my blogs at egbertowillies.com or politicsdoneright.com. It is important because you have clawed your way up. You had the wherewithal to claw your way up. The people that are required, by the way, I am a redistributionist. I believe in redistribution because most of the people, and I'm not talking about people at your level, sir. I'm talking about people who have much ill gains. Okay, let me give an example. Just one quick answer. What do you do for a living?
I work for an energy company.
Okay. Now, here's the deal. The guy who owns your energy company depends on your work. He depends on all the other folks down below that are doing things, many of them who are having problems sending their kids to school, etc., etc., etc. Yet, he gets a stock option. Yet, he gets many free benefits that he has not earned other than because he is at that position.
Now wait. I get stock options. I get benefits
sir, again,
as well.
We're not talking about you. You see, the way the system is set up, it is set up to give you a little piece of the pie so that you will believe anybody else that is getting another piece of the pie is coming from you. You are just the ruse. I'm trying to tell you the reason I asked you to listen is because what I'm trying to tell you is they want the war, not war, but they want us, the people that are okay, that are doing just fine, to get the feeling that those that are not doing fine at all will be a burden to them. If you look at the income and wealth distribution in the country, you don't really play a part in it. We don't want what you have to be shared because you've, as you said, fought to get where you're at. However, there are many out there with these stock options, not the way you're talking about it, but where the real money is. That is what is the inconsistency and what I call the aberration within our economic system. And that's what we're coming at. They make believe that this fight is between your level and those people who need access to success. That's not where the run.
I agree with you to some extent. A lot of the media is just a tool, really, for the super elite.
Exactly.
It's the super elite that you're talking about.
And Joe, what I need you to do, sir, is you have to get out of that thinking that those people down there are trying to take what you have rightfully earned. I want to take nothing away from you who have rightfully earned it. But I'm telling you, the wealth disparity, you and I don't even count. You and I don't even count. And that is what we have to work on. We have to get around that feeling that somehow those downtrodden are somehow a burden on us. We don't want them to be a burden on us, but we want to make sure that the plutocracy doesn't keep taken away. There's some posts that I've written where I talk about how the wealth distribution has gone on in this country, and not only how it has gone on, but how it has put folks like you against those folks who should be your ally. I got to go to another call. Joe, I appreciate
inheritance tax.
There you go. Thank you, sir. So thank you. Let me tell you, I'm glad that you called, because we need a lot of folks in that know that they've busted their butt to not sit down there believing that what liberals want is to take anything away from you. They don't. So thank you very much.
I don't believe in labels like that, though, man.
I know, sir. I understand.
Labels like conservative and liberal.
But you know what?
That's something else they're using to divide us.
Exactly. But we'll talk about why for now we still have to use them. But right now, my friend, thank you for the call, and you have a good afternoon, okay?
You too. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Jones, come on in.
Yeah, thanks for taking my call.
Yes, sir.
Just quick question. Could you give me a scenario of America's political system? I know you dealing with labels today. But
yes, sir.
Just a quick scenario of how you think it could be set up where we didn't vote by labels, Democrats, Republicans, just vote. Is that possible to do? And what do you think how that scenario
I would love that, but I wrote a paper on Federalist 10 a few years ago, okay? And people aren't going to take kindly to what I said, but the reality is the founding fathers believed in factions, and the reason why they believed in factions, meaning these labels, is because having the masses in conflict prevent them from what I think they used to call something called the I don't remember the phrase that they use, the tyranny of the masses or something like that. The tyranny, So I mean, the reality is that political these labels and served a purpose as a caller that, as Joe said before, they're really there to divide. But we have to use the tools of division to reunite folks. So Joe was correct about how divisive these labels can be. However, your question was, how could we have a system that doesn't depend on that? Actually, we could if we really wanted to. The truth of the matter is, neither of the parties want that, because the power is within the elites in each of these parties. So they love the status quo as far as, it's the liberals fighting against the conservatives. You have to remember there was a time that it was Republicans who were the liberals. After all, the Voting Rights Act, all that kind of stuff wouldn't have passed without a whole bunch of liberal Republicans. So the reality is, yes, we should be able to break that and just talk about what's best for on each particular issue for most people. Of course, we do need a Bill of Rights to ensure that you don't get the tyranny of the majority. The tyranny of the majority says this: in America, there are more white people than anybody else. So technically speaking, if somehow some leader was to get an agenda that affects minorities, somehow they could do it all of the times. Well, you have a Bill of Rights that protects against that. It protects against what's called the tyranny of the majority, meaning no majority, no matter whom the majority is, can actually affect anyone. So, yes, we could have that if we really wanted to. And Shannon is looking at me and saying, Egbert, I got to do the traffic report.
Okay,
so
thank you.
Thank you very much for calling in.
All right.
All right. Thank you, Egberto. All right. Stop and go traffic on I-10 Katy Freeway outbound from Beltway 8 to Blaylock due to an accident that was just cleared. And stop and go traffic on 290 Northwest Freeway due to an accident that was cleared as well at Bingle. That is slow from Senate to 34th Street. And slow going as always on the West Loop northbound from Evergreen all the way up to the North Freeway, all the way to the North Loop at Irvington. So be careful out there, but as the traffic increases, those areas will be congested, as we all know. So back to you, Egberto, in the studio.
Muchísimas gracias. Now we're going to be speaking line 5 to Senor Rick. Come on in, Rick.
Hello?
Yes, Rick, you're right.
I mean, it's the first time I've ever been on KPFT. I listen to it all the time. And
well, thank you, sir.
It's fun being a liberal here in the state of Texas because you're the only one.
Hey, look, I am sorry, Rick. I am sorry. I must take exception to that. My theory is that Texas has more liberals. It's just that, as Shannon would tell us, we are hiding. And then then the next thing is, as I wrote in my post, and this is the important part that I really believe in. If you, Joe has been talking about getting rid of labels. I agree with Joe. And then Rick just said, Egberto, how can we have a system where we don't even have to think about labels when we're voting? And he's right as well. Here's the deal. I did this experiment. I asked people, Republicans, Democrats, and everyone in between, what are the things they liked? And it turns out that if you asked them what they liked, it would turn out that they're all liberals. Because okay, don't put any labels on it. Ask them, do you want to have a good social security system? Mm-hmm. Do you want to have a good universal health care that you can take your kids here? And you ask all these questions, and all these questions are the things that liberals want, and a lot of the answers are things that are anathema to conservatives in their that they believe they're anathema to, but the reality is they're not. So
when one time my boss asked me, what did Obama done for us? And I threw out a whole list. I've just been hiding, and he walked away.
There you go.
Whole list of things. I said he's done all these things and more.
Right. So
you don't want to listen. He don't want to listen. So he walked away.
Absolutely. So what I try to one of the reasons I said I was going to have this show after I didn't do the Grease show was to say, hey guys, let's start making the liberal label mean something bad. And for now that we still have to use these labels, let's reclaim it and let's go ahead and talk to people, not from a liberal standpoint, but from a humane standpoint. And then folks will automatically start voting their interests. I don't care if they want to call themselves or what they want to call themselves.
Yeah.
Just go ahead and vote appropriately so that you're voting in the best interest of your city.
And I don't get it. I grew up poor, but I worked my way kind of up the ladder there. And my friend grew up poor right next to me, and he's like a Republican, and I don't get it. We both grew up poor.
Right. Well, again, a lot of it is peer pressure, my friend. A lot of it is peer pressure. But, my friend, I got to go. So, it was a pleasure speaking to you. I appreciate you listening. Keep listening and keep calling. Thank you, Rick. You have a good one. Let's go to Tag. Tag, it seems like you want to tell me something about Greece that I don't know. Talk to me, my friend.
Well, you may know this, but I haven't heard the whole show. But the other day, I heard on TV they're talking about how a lot of the PIGS, Portugal, Greece, Ireland, France, Spain, anyway, had gotten some pretty big loans from the European banks.
Yes, they did.
And they said that a lot of those loans were based on things like in Spain, for example, they built an airport, and one airplane left or touched down for 10 years. That airport was not used for 10 years.
Well,
but the whole time Spain's paying interest on that airport and it's not being used. Same things happened in Greece. And then the other thing that was quite interesting is that when these loans were given to these different municipalities or whoever, they were low interest, like 2%.
Right.
But it was variable.
Right.
And now the interest rate's 10, 12, 15%.
Right.
And these people can't repay that kind of interest. So, and then the other thing I heard about, which I thought was fascinating, is that a lot of Greek people in Greece has put their money into the German banks.
Right.
So subsequently, the banks in Greece don't have any money to work with anymore. So
I read a lot of that, Tag, and the thing about it, the reason, like I said, I didn't do it is that it wasn't up to speed correctly on that. But I tell you what, the same things that the banks did in America to the middle class, the same thing that the banks have been doing to students, the same. I mean, these are predators. Okay, they are predators. In some countries, you lose your life for doing what they've actually done. So yes, they're predators. But what is stunning about the Greece issue is that now we're at the point where, they're going to say, the EMF or the Troika is really, government stuff. But the reality, it's private deep down when you take a look at how it all operates. And the reality is we're looking at a banking system that is almost willing to take down a country or to put the citizens of a country for things that they had nothing to do with. Nothing to do with a lot of the fraud that occurred in signing contracts for airports like you've spoken about. That's all they were, fraud. But I got to go, Tag.
Just one last thing real quick.
Yes, sir.
Is that the banks will do that so they can come in and take over these these things, and they get something for nothing then at that point.
You know, they've started taking a lot of the assets in Greece during the first go-round. So you hit that on the money, sir. Thank you very much for calling, Tech. Please keep listening. Please keep calling.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.
You too, sir. Now, David, you're up. Talk to me.
David, this is Egberto. This is David.
How you doing, David?
How you doing?
Great.
It's my first time on the radio, but I just wanted to say, I heard your comment about wealth distribution.
Yes, sir.
And just to understand this, are you trying to target the upper 1% or the population as a whole, or?
Let me tell you what I'm trying to target. Let me tell you what I really mean by that, okay? It's going to end up somewhat being, let's say, the top 0.1% or whatever, depending on how you want to look at it. But here's what I want is fairness in an economic system. Let me give a perfect example. Bill Gates is worth over $80 billion, okay? Bill Gates built his wealth on the knowledge of somebody in Washington State who created a very crude operating system that he took and not sold to IBM, but had the ingenuity. I'm saying the guy's a great businessman. He had the ingenuity to license it to IBM, and after licensing it to IBM, growing exponentially. Also, his growth was based on internet-based software, which was developed by ARPA, which was a government agency that we all paid for. And he also made his fortune on the Lole microprocessor, which was developed by hundreds of thousands of engineers and technicians, etc. The way our system currently works, the person who capitalized that knowledge makes the lion's share of the money on that. In other words, Bill Gates capitalized the knowledge of millions. And when he capitalized the knowledge of millions, he was able to sell those instruments and become the billionaire that he is. The persons who made a salary had what would be referred to as excess labor sold. In other words, they are partakers in the creation of Bill Gates' wealth, but they partake of none of it. Now, Bill Gates is one of the benevolent people in that he decides that he is going to use his monies and give away most of his money, like a few other billionaires. That's a good thing. But there are most of the billionaires that are not doing that, and most of the billionaires actually believe that they really earned, that their worth is really in the billions that they have, when the billions that they have is from the excess doings of others. In other words, what others have not been paid for, known as these other people's excess profit. It's a different way of thinking, David, that if you sit down and analyze how different entities get wealthy and how that wealth was developed, absent the masses, would never have occurred. So when you ask me how do I intend or how do I talk about redistribution, first of all, I want to tell you, the way the system is working today, they have been trying to tell people to feel bad about using the word redistribution, to feel like redistribution is a bad thing. I am trying to make that word redistribution be that moral, ethical thing, because most of our billionaires today are billionaires because of the worth of others. Your comment,
I agree with that in principle. However, what I've always seen in terms of implementation, and I'm very, very progressive in my values, or liberal, if you want to use that term. But on finances, I've always been very libertarian.
Right.
I don't believe that any government entity, whether it's the United States or any nation, does an effective job of redistributing wealth.
It's above my pay grade, David. You're correct. I don't know how to do it, but I'm saying we have enough intelligent people in this country that can figure a method to do it. And I don't know what it is. I am not smart enough to know I know what the problem is. I know what causes the problem. I think a lot of us can get together to actually solve the problem. In the meantime, the tax system has to do. But I have one more call and I'm down on time. David, so if you could say something real quickly so I can get to Christopher.
I appreciate it, and I thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you very much, and you have a wonderful day, David. Christopher, come on in.
Well, that's why,
excuse me, that's why I say we better protect the Constitution.
Okay.
Because if we don't, then corporations are the ones who want to run the show. And all this Republican Democratic malarkey.
Mm-hmm.
What's interesting, I was on a hunting trip.
Right.
And there was a brain surgeon, there was a rich oil guy, and there was somebody from the police force.
Right.
And myself and another guy, and now, of course, I was the only African-American person there.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, they made the assumption, you're this Democrat,
right.
whatever, left. And so by the time I got through smoking their knot,
right.
By telling them, you pull the covers back, you'll find them all toasty in bed together, Republicans and Democrats and all of them.
You're right about that, Christopher.
And what you were saying is these corporations, and you think it's the liberals, you think it's the Republicans, you think it's the blacks, you think it's this, you think it's that. They're the ones who are kicking America, all that. But really, these corporations are the ones that are itching away at dismantling the Constitution so that they can get in and monopolize. And these guys don't have any loyalties to any country.
Christopher, you're absolutely correct. And I want to get to one other person, so I want to tell you this. Please go to movetoamend.org. Movetoamend.org.
Movetoamend.org.
And also talk to me at Politics Done Right on Facebook. Okay, so I appreciate your call, Christopher. I need to get this one last call in, and you keep calling and you keep listening, my brother. Mark, you're the last caller, sir. Mark, come on.
Thanks. I just wanted to say that the government already redistributes wealth for the wealthy. I mean, it goes back to, no, seriously, the railroads, with the eminent domain,
right.
They got a lot of free land from the federal government, which is, the federal government
Mark,
is supposed to...
I got to go. You closed the show with just the right statement, sir. I'm glad. Okay. I am glad you were the last caller because I want that impinged on people's heads right now. Thank you. Have a wonderful day, my friend.
You too.
All right. Okay, folks, this has been one more edition of Politics Done Right. Please remember to go to egbertowillies.com and politicsdoneright.com or see us on Facebook on Politics Done Right. And with that, folks, we've had a wonderful show, and Politics Done Right is out.
Thank you very much for listening to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. You can personally reach me by sending an email to egberto@politicsdoneright.com. Remember, Egberto is spelled E-G-B-E-R-T-O. Change starts with you. 90.1 KPFT gives you information not tainted by corporate interest. Please visit kpft.org and contribute. Let's ensure continued access to real information and news remain available to all. Again, thank you very much for listening to Politics Done Right.